so now we're having a meeting tonight in District 3, Terry Drexler's district, to have public outreach to citizens. We're having the very first of 3 this year, and we hope to get better and better at it. And I'm Jack Johnson on TIPCAT. And we have TIPCAT members here, Pete and Dawn and Mary Jo and Mark. And what we're doing is working with the county as a public committee that has been assembled, and we've one of the functions we want to serve is to have a meeting every year in the beginning part of the year in District 1, which we had in March, District 2 we had in April, and District 3 we're having in May. And so what we'll be doing is Phil will go through some PowerPoint to show some of the road projects, and then what we would like to do is get input on safety issues, on possibly intersection or roadways that could be improved on, and we're compiling a list, and then when we go to our next meeting, we're going to start putting them into a 1-year and 6-year transportation plan. And so, you want to get Phil?
All right, again, so I'm Phil Wolf. I represent a pedestrian on access, along with all county roads as well on the TIPCAT committee. So as Jeff described, this is so it's a citizens advisory panel. I've covered roads within public works. So roads, safety, construction, maintenance. There's a little bit of funding too we can direct for trails. So Jack went over the TIPCAT members, the members, and the members, again, they're here under Jack for freight and trucking, Don, Mary Jo, Katie's here for District 1, Mark for Shelton is here, and Jeff's been really active, but he wasn't able to make it tonight. I know Dave Smith is here from the county, and of course Loretta, and other members, and the other members on the committee really help our work.
And Phil.
And me. No.
That's me.
Oh, Kathy, I'm sorry, yeah. And we have one of our new members.
I usually have a problem getting noticed. I am now, yep, I just became official last week.
From Mason County Transit. Once you say your name again, I'm sorry.
That's okay, Kathy Guys.
Yeah, that's right, Kathy, yes, okay. Okay, so as Jack described, our citizen panel to help with recommendations for the 6-year plan. We want to help ensure the viability of the county, the financial viability of the county road system. We get a chance to look at reports. Urban growth areas are important, especially right now in Belfair. Of course, with the bypass issues there. We participated in county comprehensive plans and the planning updates for those. Of course, our most important function is to listen to the citizens and to bring that back to meetings to discuss. So there's lots of roads in the county, as everybody knows, but there's often some confusion between what's a county road and what's a state road. So it's outlined in red are state highways, and we I know the county has interaction with DOT, of course, and we're trying to, as evidence from the meeting we had in Belfair, that, we heard that there needs to be a stronger correlation between the county and DOT. And, a lot of the meeting in Belfair, we talked about, Highway 3 and the improvements that were made there, whether good or bad. So, but that's actually a highlight. So again, lots of miles of road, 620 miles of road. Within all those roads is 64 bridges and 3,300 culverts. So annually, the goal's been to do 50 miles of chip seal overlay. Since it's chip leaf, it's a chip seal, and then the HMA, the 12 miles of HMA, that's essentially like a new layer of asphalt, right? Like what was done on the Pickering Road, is one example. And on the Mason-Benson Road. So with all those culverts, some of them are fish barriers, or they're classified as fish barriers. So I don't know if everyone's followed the news about the lawsuit with the tribes about was against counties and state highways, logging company, Washington, Project Resources, who I have to work for. But the other goal is we want salmon to be able to pass, and that's both juvenile and adults, right? And then a lot of times these culverts are old anyway. They're old steel culverts, they're rusting out, they weren't built to have all the capacity of water that sometimes go through them. So a lot of times they need to be replaced anyway. But it's a big number to replace those culverts, 325,000. That's the average number. But I've gotten started out. Those 30 barriers have been removed, or almost 30 barriers have been removed since 2000. But there's a lot more to go. And on the map, the dots indicate where they're at. So yeah, a big part of what we do again is the tip cap is look at the 6-year plan, and then out of that 6-year plan is the annual construction program. So a little over $4 million for 2018, which, as you'll find, is actually less than what we've had in years previous. And so, for instance, just way back in 2007, it was 19,000, or 19 million was the budget, and now it's just a little over, or it's over 20 million. But if you think about in terms of what when 2007 was, as far as inflation and everything and the costs, and with the environmental costs and the permitting and the construction standards, everything has gone up, but yet the budget hasn't. And there's a so under law, the sheriff can divert, or the county, can divert a certain amount of money from the transportation budget to the sheriff. And that diversion was around 400,000 in 2007, and now it's over 2 million. And we all realize money's tight, and the sheriff does help obviously control traffic around some construction projects. There's some element to maintenance, I suppose, with controlling speed and different aspects, but that's a really big number. And then as evidenced by the number of employees has actually gone down since 2007. Given, but yet the complexity of our of their work, or the work in public works, has gone up. So, but the county's responded by trying to do things smarter, but realizing there's been a service reduction in that. Also, realizes that the budget, a lot of the grants, the federal grants that the county obtains to do some of these projects, they're matching grants. So, for instance, if you match, 50% of the project, if the county matches 50% of the project, then the federal government or the state government, you through the legislature, can match, the other 50%. Well, if you don't have the money to match, then, you're not going to get that other 50% money, essentially. So, obviously there's more to understanding about the county roads and the TIP and what this committee does than this presentation. And there's plenty of links to provide you with more information from the Mason County Public Works website. So these are the documents, or these are the sites you can go to from the website. And you can get actually to that plan that I showed you earlier. You can get right to there. The Belfair mobility plan is an important one to look at, obviously, with, it's not the bypass, it's a freight corridor, is that correct? That's being built. But anyway, that's an exciting project, but that's on there. The planning elements are there. There's more information that are on committee, and the Mason County GIS site's pretty cool, too. Kind of what I mentioned about the difference, maybe a difference between 2007 or even before that is, these aren't trails through the woods anymore. These aren't wagon roads anymore, right? I mean, maybe they were back in the 50s and 60s, but, there's a certain road standard to follow and for proper road design. And to meet, certain federal and state standards. And we're going to go into the chip seal program. What is done, again, this helps maintain the roads so they can last. There's other benefits of it too, of course. And so here's the plan for the roads. They'll be chip sealed this year. And, some of the areas being targeted are more neighborhoods. And, I never, believe you me, as a road bicyclist enthusiast, right, I was never a huge fan of chip seal. But, until I started to understand the benefits of it. And the county's using a smaller rock now. And so it's so it goes into the pavement better. And, and then they put a seal coat afterwards. So I don't know if it's not the same chip seal as it was 20 years ago, like in a short way of saying it. So speaking of chip seal and other services like we talked about, here's on the right is some pavement overlays. And then on the left is, it's a chip seal road. That was originally a chip seal road. And then it's been resurfaced over the years on the Elphinall Pass Road. And sometimes, you take a road that's been, that's had an HMA, overlay or an overlay, but then put chip seal on top of it. So it increases the longevity of the road. It's a lot less expensive. 30,000 mile for chip seal versus 300,000 a mile for an overlay. And it adds traction, to the driving. So a little more about chip seal and overlays, and so on the left is a chip seal application, and this is, what you might see for an asphalt overlay. Another example of some of the past projects, and realignment of the roadways out by the Capalum Road. Again, a nice shoulder, nicer, straighter road. And getting back to the culvert, a lot of these were way undersized in the past, and they may have been steel or concrete, and they're breaking down, and they don't and they don't pass the fish passage criteria. And then this is what it looked like afterwards. Has a nice, nice gravel bottom. Through there too as well. nice arch pipe there. This was a new bridge on Hunter Creek. So like I mentioned about the freight corridor or the Belfair bypass, here's the schedule of the project. And this is funded, this has been funded. 19 to 22 is the design, getting on the right of way to 22, and then, construction starts. Another future project obviously is the Skokomish Road and trying to fix the dips and that, some serious water issues there between Vance Creek and Eels Hill Road. So what's it, and then this is the Matlock Grady Road, and what was the update on that, Loretta or Jack?
Bid opening this Friday.
Oh, okay, Friday, so it's moving along. One of the things that Jack brought, to the committee and we've been discussing is, simple ways to help with, simple, non-expensive ways to help with some of these intersections here. And knowing that you're coming up to them is part of it. You may have seen what DOT has done with putting reflective tape just on the T-post. So it's posts that go on the ground, those metal posts there. And, just simple things like that, to help have intersection awareness. As you can imagine, most of the serious, many serious accidents happen in intersections, and that's where the T-bone, the T-bone crash occurs. So a little bit about bicycles. So this is right in front of my house on the Great Bee Loop Road, and I knew the chip seal was coming. I was a little bit apprehensive about it, but it turned out really nice. So that was on the left. They first put it down. They seal coated it afterwards, used a smaller chip, and they didn't chip the shoulder. So it helps. So it also helps define, in my mind, where the shoulder is for drivers. And this is an example, actually, you see, from being on, I don't know if it influenced the county or not, to be honest with you, but from being on the committee, I go, when I ride my bike in Tumwater, or, in other counties, other jurisdictions, I take photos of what I've seen that works and what doesn't work. And so the picture on the right is actually by Steamboat Island, and, that's where they had a wide shoulder, and they only chipped part of it, again, kind of making a definite line of where pedestrians or bicycles are. And then, this was on the Trails Road, which I'm guessing was redone maybe 12, 15 years ago. Still a really nice road. It was a good project, but there was no shoulder. And, you're not going to ride your bicycle on the ground there. But as I don't know if many people have seen, but bicycle, in tourism is important. It is here. There are 3 or 4 races out at Mason Lake where hundreds of people, they actually do the loop around the lake. Interesting enough, in that area is actually drier. There's less rain than other areas in Western Washington, so that's where they have that event or that race. And then there's others, there's Ramrod and different right around Puget Sound and different events that come through here too. And interesting enough that I just thought it was interesting, so I went onto the race website, and it's just fascinating that the average speed racing around Mason Lake was 26 miles an hour. That's just incredible, right? For those guys you watch in the Tour de France, a lot of times, even going uphill, they're going 30 miles an hour. But, and it just gives you an idea how fast they can be traveling. That's one of the things I notice when I ride, is people don't realize how fast you're going when they pull out in front of you. And, our roads are really important. I mean, it's the backbone to our county. You know, you know, I mean, it's our billboard, it's our invitation into the county, and it's how we get around. That's what we have here.
So, what I'd like to do is, I know, is get whatever public input that we could get on future construction projects or safety issues. I know that there was an email that came out about the intersection of John's Prairie with Highway 3, and I think everybody in this room has gone to that intersection, and it's definitely should have never been connected, I think, years ago. But I am kind of hung up on intersection safety. I think we can get a lot of bang for the buck. I think we could improve. We can save one life or one accident. You're really saving thousands and thousands of dollars. So those are the kind of ideas. We've got a list of intersections that we have taken from public input, or we've brought to the attention of our committee, and so what we've been doing is after Phil's presentation, we just ask for ideas or input we've been writing it down, and when we meet the second Wednesday of every month, so we'll be in June meeting the second Wednesday, and then we'll start compiling the list of the 3 meetings that we had, and really what we're hoping just to get better and better, and have these meetings very well known, and Kitsap County holds a meeting similar to this, 5 different meetings in a year, and they do it all by their staff. So we're trying to do it with committee members and the help of the public works. We really, we just really, I think, myself and as a committee, I think we just get really good support from Mason County Public Works, and I just think so far this has really been a great relationship. So if anyone has any complaint, Chuckle, maybe your property taxes are a little too high, and we're here to listen, and we also...
bureaucrats?
What's that?
Shoot the bureaucrats?
Yeah.
Well, no.
And we also, we're not limiting it to tonight.
Wait, what?
We're not limiting it to tonight. We can, anyone's welcome to our meetings, and we're also, I think, pretty easy to get a hold of. If you come up with an idea tomorrow or next week, let us know. And what is important, I think, is that we do something with those ideas, and we try to make things happen. And so one thing to get the ideas is another to make it happen. And what Phil was alluding to too about, I think there needs to be collaboration between the state and county, because a lot of the intersections that I think that there's really no attention to them, and they are dangerous. There's kind of a state and county ownership, and so it kind of also what ends up happening, I think, is, well, that's a county road, and then the state says that's a county road, and then the county goes, that's a state road, and so sometimes nothing gets done. So I think we need to have a little better interaction with the state. But so we'll take any suggestions tonight, and that's really, Mary Jo?
I've got a suggestion.
Okay.
There was
the last time when we met at Belfair, I was going to be late because there was a wreck with a motorcycle and a truck at Johns Prairie and Highway 3. And I think the signage could be better there with something that says limited visibility, both on Highway 3 and on the Johns Prairie Road. Limited visibility, merging traffic, and then make it a daylight headlight area, a daytime headlight area, so that everybody, you know, whether they're going north or south or coming down Johns Prairie, everybody's got their headlights on. They've all been warned that there's merging traffic and that there's limited visibility. It doesn't cost anything other than the signs, but at least it'll be more awareness and maybe people will slow down a little.
Reduce the speed to there too.
Yeah, reduce the speed right in there.
I got
That's a lot of DOT
something to
stuff.
add. I'm heavy equipment hauling. I've been around for this kind of for quite a while, Wilson. When we have detours, they are not very well put together at all. And I don't understand. But when that railroad accident on Highway 5 detoured all the folks through town, they were detouring them down through Railroad and First Avenue, and then they detoured them up Johns Prairie. And the point of it is that when they do those detours, they put them on all our roads. And so I want to know what it is that we get back from those guys that direct them off the state highways and put them on our highways. There was 2 wrecks on Highway 3 last week. They detoured everybody off of Highway 3. The detour sign says, get off Highway 3, end of the detour. So now you're going to Hartstein Island. What are you going to do at Hartstein Island with a detour when you want to go to Belfair? They did that twice this last week.
So is the state that detoured them?
Yeah.
Do they contact Public Works at all when they
No
detour
idea.
them?
None.
So,
But this happens as often as there's an accident.
yeah.
And those guys are doing it. I mean, I don't know what we're supposed to do about it, but obviously you can't have all those folks just driving all around. When they directed them down through town, that didn't work. All the I-5 highway people, they just jammed downtown completely. So then they ran up to Johns Prairie. But still, the detour people didn't know where they were going and what they were doing and how they were going to get anywhere. They just got them off the highway.
Well, I know they detoured from the train wreck. It seemed like they were detouring the trucks all the way 16 to Highway 3 to Gorst, and then they were detouring all the cars through the pretty bit, and then, and I'm not sure.
But they didn't complete the detour. Once they got them off the state highway,
They don't care.
exactly. We care, but they don't care.
Right.
You know, Highway 3 was bumper to bumper lights. for
Oh,
days,
yeah,
2 days,
for days.
Yeah.
all the way into town.
Yeah.
I don't know how they can wreck a train, you know, when.
Brand new.
Yeah, let's talk about train wrecks, huh?
Yeah.
If you, so you haul equipment frequently,
Say again?
you haul equipment frequently?
As of the first of the year, I'm done.
Okay.
For the last 30 years, I did it. I don't know if you know what's going on, but the biggest intrusion into capitalism in the history of our country is when they put a digital controller on every single truck that's over 100 mile travel. And they clock every minute of your day, 24 hours a day. So when your time is up, however they want to determine it, they give you 15 minutes to park and they shut the truck off.
Really?
So here you're out in the middle of nowhere. You have to go to John. You want to go to a restaurant. You want to go find a place to sleep if you can't sleep in your truck. It's illegal to sleep in a truck that doesn't have a sleeper. You can sleep on the ground, but you can't sleep in the truck. You can't go do anything emergency. Your truck is shut off. It's gone. And the hours they give you are horrible. I mean, what they're doing doesn't make sense. But for that main reason, I just decided I didn't want to go in the future with those guys. It's just too much hassle.
I guess the reason I was asking, did you rely on any alerts, like DOT traffic alerts or anything? What would be, I guess, help?
Both the detours
to
last
you?
week, neither of them were on any alerts. I checked right away and I checked the Verizon one, and
Okay.
they weren't on it.
Okay,
So however quick it happens, it didn't make it for those particular detours.
Okay.
Now, the other one, the railroad one, I'm sure was on there.
yeah.
It was.
Yeah. Well, that was
They
the-
detoured people over Johns Ferry and then over to Wallace and
Yeah.
down to 101,
Yeah.
coming down.
Now, there's another problem though, that I'm sure other people are aware of. The light at First Avenue and Railroad is biased for the city. You sit there and sit there and sit there and sit there on Highway 3. It shouldn't be that way. Highway 3 should have the bias. But you just sit there and sit there and sit there. So what happens is that the folks around here that know, we don't go through that intersection. We bypass it, we swerve out on any one of the other 3 streets down there and become a hassle elsewhere. But
What light is that again? Is that, we have another light that's an issue in Belfair. So I think that is something that we're going to get into in our meeting, and it favors 106.
Yeah.
And
And
it
whatever it favors, but
Yeah.
again, the rationale for doing what you're doing, and that is combining the process with DOT and the state and the city. You know, this Highway 3 thing in town is it's a city light.
Mhm.
And the same problem exists at 7th Street.
In Boulder.
And you sit there, I have to confess. I go to the casino. I only dance, so I never come home drunk. I haven't drunk in 50 years. But everybody who leaves the casino after 11 o'clock is scrutinized.
Oh, really?
There's cops out everywhere. Oh, yeah, the cops are out, and what the cops do, which in my mind is totally illegal, they sit on the side of the highway with their damn lights off. Now, if I sat on the side of the highway with my lights off, I get a $500 ticket. What the screw's the difference? Why can they sit there and be a hazard when I can't? And I'm not saying that I want to sit there without my lights on. I'm saying that what they're doing is cuckoo.
Is this state patrol or?
Yeah, the state patrol. And if you check the record, I call the state patrol 911 probably once a week and tell them that some screwball thing is going on.
That's why they're scrutinizing you.
Thank
You're
you.
bugging them all the
Oh,
time.
no. I'll tell you what, my Mustang, it says GTS, it's GTS, P51, Mustang.
Red light, red
Yeah,
light, red flag.
and red.
Yeah.
Okay, so anyhow, I come home down Highway 3, I get off at Railroad, I come down through town, and I sit there at the light at 7th Street. And finally, after about 5 minutes, I drive to the damn light. You just sit and sit and sit and sit. There's nobody there, nobody in sight. Again, how do we do this without the county, the city, the state? Because look at the map, you can't go anywhere without going through these 3 jurisdictions. We're stuck with them.
When we thought about even inviting the state to our meetings, but it was kind of decided that we just would focus the meetings without them, and I thought, but the lights, I think the lights, that's good input.
Yeah, and actually, we had, the state held what were called corridor sketch meetings,
Yeah.
about a year or so ago, and that exact issue came up. So they were capturing all of these comments, and you're saying
And when you're a
something
truck,
that other people.
and when you're a truck, there isn't any way through town.
Right.
We got trucks turning at 7th and Railroad, going over to Park Street, down through Park, past the bridge. I mean, this town, it wouldn't be here if it weren't for
That's
trucks.
the truck trail. Park Street was always the old truck trail,
But
but
we
it doesn't
wouldn't be
work
here.
anymore.
The only reason that Shelton is because of timber and moving the timber. And now we fixed it so that you almost can't. And I don't haul timber, so it isn't my complaint. It isn't me that can't get around necessarily. But still, and I've had meetings with the city, and I had meetings with you guys, 10 years ago, and they asked me, well, what should we do and what should we not do to get around? But you go up to Walmart and try to turn off of John Prairie Road on the old highway with any kind of truck. And you just look at the curbs and you know what's happened. You know the trucks are they're beating themselves up on the curbs. And the law says, law, you can't stay in your lane, you're illegal. I can't drive anywhere in Mason County in my lane. Can't do it. It's not possible.
Well, that was the issue in Belfair was the roundabout and making them so, you know,
The roundabouts are horrible. Okay, on my big loads, okay, what I do, you guys, is I move windmill towers. The big giant things. And so my trailers are 130 feet long. And I'm wide and I'm every stinking thing heavy like that. But the high route, as any trucking person would recognize, is nothing but a detour. It isn't necessarily high or low. But every road that detours an obstacle is called the high route. So the high route to get to Fort Lewis. Now if I bring a big load from Portland all the way to Fort Lewis, it's 130 miles. I can't cross Nisqually Bridge, I-5. I can't cross the bridge down at Vancouver, right up to the scale, because the state has weight limited almost to legal weights. So if I have a big heavy load, I can't go there. In the old days, we would go Highway 30 up Oregon, cross over the Long Ridge Bridge, bypass that bridge, and then we would go out Hawks Prairie, 512 to Puyallup, Tacoma, back around to Fort Lewis. There's 7 circle rounds on 512. I can't take any of my trucks there. None of them. You can't go there. It's a state highway. Okay, now the high route to Canada is 539. 4-lane divided highway, straight north through Bellingham. They put 4 circle rounds in that. 4-lane divided highway. And by the second year, they ban all oversized loads through that intersection.
Are there bridge restrictions in Mason County that were problematic for you?
Pardon?
Were there bridge restrictions?
You have to say it a lot.
Yeah, I'm
No,
sorry.
no, you don't have
Were
to say it.
there,
There's 64 bridges that I can't cross. Every single stinking bridge. Now, what you've done in Mason County, I can't argue. I can only tell you. You've said every oversized load requires a pilot car at every stinking bridge. Pardon? 64 bridges, I have to have a pilot car?
I don't think that's true.
no.
Oh, yeah.
County bridges?
Every single county bridge.
In Mason County? What's the dictating
That's
that?
right on the permit. When I go get the permit, that's what it tells me.
Oh, really?
For oversized loads.
Anything that's over 8.6 wide,
Which isn't that wide.
no. And it may not be heavy.
Right.
So obviously, we don't abide by that.
Well, I've
You
been
can't see
known-
Simpson and those guys going out there with pilot cars everywhere. You never see them.
I've been known to speed before too, so I get it.
Well,
Don't check that, Bill, because
pardon?
you know, our regulations, we follow the state regulations, which are.
It's right on the permit.
Which are over, you know, whether it's 11 foot, over 11 foot.
It's right on the
It's
permit.
pilot car. So how it was written on the permit or that language will go.
So every bridge, dear Loretta. Are you
She
Loretta?
wrote it down. Hang it down there.
And I'm not trucking anymore, so I don't care.
Well, no, it does matter.
Well,
No,
you have
it-
good perspective, though.
Yeah, you need to hear that. So.
Well, sometimes those things get put on there some way, somehow, and then they never get taken off.
Well, the mindset isn't wrong. I mean, you know, in every state has, like, you name a state, I'll tell you a story. But every state has things that they do that are questionable in terms of logics and what have you. In Montana, they require me to slow down at every single bridge to 5 miles an hour. So where are the bridges? They're at the bottom of every damn hill. So here I'm 300,000 pounds up the top of the hill, and I have to all but come to a complete stop before I go across the bridge. Well, I have to do it, and I do it. But logics? No, we understand. Anybody who's ever ice skated, as you skate across the ice, you can see the ice ways in front of you. Well, the road's doing the same thing, but we can't see it, you know? he can't argue that we're beating up the system. But just think for a system, just think for a moment, when I'm not allowed to do 130 miles from Portland to Fort Lewis, what's my alternative? What is it? 600 miles, all the way out to Umatilla, Ellensburg, Yakima, Snoqualmie, Seattle. I'm beating up 200 bridges. I'm driving 500 extra miles, beating up 500 miles of roads with my 300,000 pound load to save one bridge. One bridge?
It doesn't have to make sense, does it?
Pardon?
Also, going downhills with a heavy load and braking.
Beats up the road.
Yeah, it does. It's part of the road, and it's,
But the bureaucrats know.
yeah.
They know best.
Well, and that's good input. And one of the things I'd like to say too is these meetings have been really well attended by the county. All the decision makers are here because like Commissioner Schuette's here, Dave Smith is a transportation engineer, Al, he's the superintendent of maintenance. So people that are here are really important, and Loretta to the decisions in the county. And so another thing we'd like to do is have any input on how we can improve our meetings, because this is kind of the maiden voyage, and we're just getting started. We'd like to have input on how we can have them better attended, what we can do to improve on them, because I think that it is important to hear input and then try to have some action to it. So anything that a person can do to contribute to that, we're all ears too.
And one thing that you could do that we didn't do tonight, that would be to either introduce us or you guys. I don't know.
Yeah, that's a good
couple
idea.
people here. I mean, I know of people, but I don't, since I haven't worked in this county as much lately.
Well, the committee members here, and Phil kind of went through them, but Phil Wolf, Mark Carlson, Mary Jo Katie, Don Reba, and Pete Butkus. We have some committee members that aren't here. I think we got 7 or 9.
Jeff isn't here.
Yeah, Jeff isn't here.
Kathy's here.
Yeah. And then with the county, we have Commissioner Schuette, Dave Smith, the transportation engineer, and Al is the superintendent, and then I'm Jack Johnson. I'm on the committee, and so I think it would be a good idea to just introduce. Maybe we should introduce or ask who's in attendance at the next time we have a meeting. So maybe you could just kind of tell us your name and tell us where you're. I'm hearing that you're in trucking.
Yes.
So
Yes, I'm Bill Sinclair. The name of the business that I disclosed is Heavy Equipment Hauling. And I was the first certified heavy hauler in Mason County. In the old days, I mentioned to a couple of people before, the timber companies would move their equipment and their buddies' equipment, and every one of those moves, other than their own specific equipment, was not a legal move. And so, as we began to go through scales and we moved out of the county, those things got questioned, and they weren't legal. Again, the bureaucrat system evolved the way it did, and whether or not we like it, that's what it was. You had to buy authority, and in the old days, you could not get authority. You couldn't go to the state and obtain it. It was limited, no growth at all. So you had to buy somebody's authority that was going out of business. And so you paid money for it. I paid $20,000 to $30,000 for my authority. And then Bill Clinton deregulated trucking, and anybody then can get an authority, so my authority isn't worth anything. No. And nobody else's is. But the big companies, it's not unheard of to spend millions of dollars for authority, because you had to have authority in every single state. Period. And you also have to have authority in major cities that you're going in some counties, and it just goes on and on and on. When I change my address in the state, it never gets changed, because they have so many departments, and you send that into one department, and all the rest. I changed my address one time with Oregon, and a year and a half later, I got sued by Oregon for not paying my permits, and they never got my address. I sent it in, but if I don't get invoices, then I don't pay anything, and learn another lesson.
Jack, I have something that a Union resident brought to me, and I don't think it's anything that we can do, and I told them that because it's a state highway, but it's a thing in Union. And it's been going on for a while, and apparently WSDOT is kind of in a battle with the property owner there, but right where McCreevy comes down and hits Highway 3, there's that culvert area and the water that's coming off the Dalby's property there, and everybody in Union's just like, this is awful. And in the wintertime, they tried to do some things to it this year. It didn't work because the water came up and went over. And so in the wintertime, you've got probably a 12-foot wide swash and however bit deep water that comes up, freezes, and then it's just right on Highway 3, right there in the middle of Union. It's right there at the Union Country Store. 106, I'm sorry.
106.
Yeah, you're goofing, yeah, sorry. Yeah, no, where McCreevy comes down and hits 106. And, everybody's like, there needs to be a culvert, under the road. And this has been going on for 6 years now. And the rumor is in town that, the property owner it was caused by the property owner up above doing some stuff and the water's coming off of there. They want him to do it. WSDOT won't do it. He won't do it. And it's a mess. And I keep thinking, oh my gosh, somebody's going to go flying right off of there, hit that ice, and go right into the canal. I mean, we had people all over it in the wintertime, hitting the ice and, that kind of thing. So I don't know if we have any pull there. The other thing that people are talking a lot about, like out in front of Alderbrook and in Union proper, and again, it's a highway, but maybe we as a committee have a little bit of pull with WSDOT on that. It's the speed through there. It really needs to be reduced, and it's just dangerous. It's so busy out there now, and the traffic is just crazy, and people don't slow down coming right through Union. And then they don't slow down, and in the wintertime they don't slow down and hit that patch of ice and go flying into a parked car. So.
Do you mean in front of Alderbrook where it's 35?
It needs to probably go a little bit slower even through there.
Review.
And in
Okay.
Union, it needs to be reduced.
See, the thing is, you can post it,
What's
but
that?
you can post it to anything. You have to have somebody out there.
I know, exactly.
To make it
And,
work.
you would think with the state patrol on Highway 6 all the time, there's so many of them out there.
Yeah.
But if you live there, you just watch it. And so the business owners out there, they see me all the time, and they're always telling me, and I'm like, oh, first of all, I don't understand it, so we don't say how fast everything should go. But I will certainly bring it up to people that might be able to help, so.
Well, we'll just get some signs made, go out there at night and change them.
Slow down. Put the little guy out there.
I guess you brought up Johns Prairie Road a little bit, Mary Jo did. I guess I'd like to, so, maybe some of us know about the studies, I know studies have been done already, and I just, including one idea of not even having access to Highway 3, or not having,
One way.
down,
You can go
one
up,
way.
but not down.
So, and I've heard more buzz about, I heard there's a petition possibly going around about it, so I guess, where are we coming out? Johns Prairie, where's it at?
Sounds like time to re-engage the city.
Right. Well, no, I mean, because it's our, I mean, in a way too, it's part of, it's kind of back to,
Yeah. And there are
the state versus county, but there's, if we did a one way, the hill, I know there was an idea one time, right, to divert, to move Johns Prairie, essentially.
I think Mary Jo was.
Or Mary Jo was talking about. Right, you were coming to.
But you got to build bridges and all kinds of.
Yes.
But there's just such a gully there, you know, you have to build a bridge, but, you know, sending people over Brockdale and down the Mason Lake Road, that's a much better intersection to come into the road at Mason Lake.
You're right. No, that's what I do. I know, yeah.
It's not that much further. you know.
Right.
Like by McCune Prairie, somewhere there. I'm not
Yeah,
that.
go across McEwen and then down.
Yeah.
Is it, and I'm just throwing ideas, I mean, I don't know, is there a way, is there possible to sign it or put it in Google Maps or whatever, to say, hey, not recommended or limited? I don't know, kind of back to the limited sign business idea, but.
My sister was bringing some people from Footsport to Timber Lakes yesterday, and they were using their GPS, and it directed them down Brockdale, and then McEwen, and then down the Mason Lake Road. And I thought, that just makes so much more sense
Right.
than trying to take that Johns Prairie Road and ending up in that mess down there.
I know when I don't know if this even makes sense, but I know when they put fish culvert in right there where Quan Falls is on 106, they elevated the whole road. It seems like that road was elevated, that intersection could possibly come in and you can be more square as you come in. I don't know if that's ever been considered.
It isn't that much further down the road where they can, you know, that's just what's happening with the road from Lake Limerick. It comes right down and it's got a decent intersection.
Right.
So,
Like the one way, like the one way going up.
Yeah.
did we fill the other position in District 2?
Nope, we still have one vacancy.
Okay. So I also like to just ask anybody that, like, if you know anyone that would be interested in being on the committee, we have one position that is still unfilled, and that's in District 2. I think it's the Hoodsport UVA, but I think that,
For the rural portion.
okay.
Yeah.
So can you know anyone that is willing to spend one night a month? And,
But that said, commissioners have expressed a desire just to fill positions.
Yeah.
Right.
So if we've got volunteers, you don't
Yeah.
necessarily have to.
The
bid
nice
that
thing
spot.
about Kathy's appointment too is that she lives in District 2 in Union,
Yes,
so we kind of get a twofer.
that's
Yeah.
part. A twofer.
well, it is important that, because when you live in a community, you just have your opinionated, about that community. I live in Belfair my whole life, so I'm, more focused on that whole area. But being on the committee, I think it's important to be looking at the whole county. And so that was why I kind of wanted to always get full committee, so. And
I have two more other issues that bothering me a little bit. The first one is Highway 101, coming from the north, bypassing Shelton, right where Highway 101 and Highway 3 intersect. You have to make a sharp turn coming off of 101. It goes down to 15 miles per hour. And then you go down and you wind down, and then you can get on the beginning of Highway 3, going to Shelton, or you can go to Lake Isabella, whatever.
So southbound. on
Approaching,
southbound?
Southbound on.
Southbound, yeah.
That little- Okay.
approaching that turn, there's not enough signage to slow down. I was in a car that just about didn't make the turn because it's a sharp 90-degree turn, basically. We almost went over the edge. But I've noticed in the last month that there are a lot of tracks of people that aren't making that turn, and they're going right down into that ditch. And luckily, there's nothing in there impeding them or anything, and maybe they can drive back out. But there needs to be better signage, maybe a longer turnout lane so that, I'm not sure what that's called, but getting off the
Deceleration.
deceleration lane, thank you. But that's a scary one. And when I was in the car that was having trouble, it was a rainy, dark night. And, you know, it just, all of a sudden you were there and skidding around the turn.
And that's one of the
So something
corners
can be done with that one.
that we can't legal.
Pardon me?
We can't make it legal. We can't drive that corner and stay in our lane.
Yeah, it's a horrible.
Not in a big truck, you just can't do it. You're in the curb either inside or outside, or you're staying on Highway 101 too long, so that you get to swing out way around. So yes,
It's a bad one. The other thing is on Highway 3, going from Belfair to Shelton, right before you get to Bay Shore. You're coming along and the last turns before you start going up the incline to where the Bay Shore store is, the golf course is, it's a huge, deep ditch right there. I mean, it's deep enough to bury a car. And I was going by there the other day and they were pulling a big minivan out of the ditch. And I noticed that the reflector posts, you know, they don't take much space, they're about this big and they have the reflection thing on the top. But there are only a couple of them even there now, and those all need to be replaced and put back in because that's another one of those corners that on a dark rainy night or when it's icy, people come around there and going up. We got the ones at Sand Hill replaced. I think I screamed loud enough about that, but I noticed they've got all nice new ones along there from
And that's a
Sand
bad
Hill up to
one.
Milepost 2.
That's a bad one for trucks too. I got a ticket there the other day, probably 10 years ago. And what we do in the truck is we ramp up to try and get up Johns Prairie, because there's almost, by the time you're at the top, you're doing 5 miles an hour. You got the road completely shut. And so at the bottom, where it's 40, we aren't doing 40, we're doing 50. And I see everybody else in cars doing it. I've watched cop cars go through there, and they all do the same thing. So it's irritating to me to get the ticket when I'm doing what everybody else is doing, but the law is the law. But the point is that intersection is just plain shots over. There's nothing good about it. And one other thing to talk about, that particular little stretch, is that the county has that on freeze restriction. And so all the trucks that want to come in there or go out of there, garbage trucks, even school trucks, when there's frost out. So when you're talking about chip seal and overlay, you ought to be looking at that last little section of Johns Prairie and see if you can't bring it up to code so that we can use it. Right now you can't. I mean, when there's a frost, a freeze warning out, or a thaw warning out, you close it.
We're talking about the part of John Prairie that,
Out by the old Mankey
okay.
in the county facility. And that's the same place that we're being directed to detour-wise. So, I mean, again, it's just another one of those areas that it's not just us, not just the county. And at that same location, so to speak, at Bayshore, I've seen high tides go all the way over Highway 3. And so anytime we're thinking about talking to anybody or working in that area, at some point we're going to have a higher high tide, you know?
Well, I think we can make a difference in bringing it to their attention for starters, to the state, when it's a state issue. Maybe there's a way of sending something officially to them. But that's one of the things I think we need to talk about as a committee, is how we can make some of these things happen.
Yeah, and when it's closed, then all the traffic is going to go around some other county road, you know?
Yeah. So,
I would just maybe say that once, since this is the final outreach meeting for the year, as you guys go back to work within your committee next month and compile all these, I think for us, the commission, it would be great to see kind of a breakdown of which items are state route related and which ones are county road related. And then I think as a commission, we'd be very interested in approaching the state about some of the concerns that people brought forward, and then maybe we can use that as a platform to talk about these issues and find a way to get some solutions on ones, and and find a way to get the others in the queue for us to continue working on. So I just kind of hope that at the end of this process that there's a deliberation amongst the tip cap, and then a report back to the commission so that we can engage our partners at DOT and our legislators as necessary.
That's good, we'll sort it out.
I think there was a suggestion to list that
And there's
DOT intersections.
a lot of precedents when we're widening Highway 5 past the Fort Lewis, all that is Fort Lewis directly, and you're in the middle of reconstructing that at the moment.
And I know the state does, it does listen. I don't know that, I'm not used to dealing with it much, but I do know that there was intersections that they've actually changed with their own crews and tried to make them safer. I've seen, so that's where I think that, we can, but we'll sort them out. I think that's a good idea, and we'll make a list. And there's some that I think a lot that came up that nobody's even thought of, and one of them is the access to North Mason High School, which is almost entirely state road. But Chris Fussman was saying that, and he goes in there because he goes to the school. Well, I don't even go in there anymore because all my kids are graduating from school. So, but there's a lot of accidents, and we all know what a teenager drives like. And so he had a suggestion on how to make it a lot safer, and I thought it was a great idea. And that's one of the things we have on our list, and so when we get into it, that will be sorted out with state and county, and I even had an idea that maybe we could just pencil out a solution with a Sharpie pen on an air photo or something and get it as the idea of a solution too, but.
Well, and just south of there, where the bypass highway, was it 302 or 301 or whatever that comes in there? That's a blind corner. When I come over in the truck, there's no way that I can stop where a car that pulls out in front of me.
Mm-hmm.
No stopping at all.
That was one of the comments we also heard up in Belfair as well.
So, and that's all state. Both those roads are state.
Now, isn't the bypass supposed to address that, hopefully?
Yeah,
Maybe.
possibly, depending on where that ends. I'm curious, Bill, how did you hear about the meeting?
I called John,
Okay, all right.
and he invited me.
Okay, good. But you didn't see it on the news or on the web, or
Well,
any suggestions on how else or what we could do to improve outreach to advertise the meetings?
I'd put it in a little shopper, things like that.
Mhm,
I mean, lots of seniors look at those things, so if that's one contingency you want to have involved, then that'd be one place to look for.
Mhm.
Nobody over 50 looks at the internet. I get
They're big.
200 emails a day.
Oh,
You think I look? Screw I don't. And they tell me it was only 3 days ago. That's 1,500 emails ago. I'm not gonna mind it.
Can I adopt that one?
Yeah, exactly.
Check, of course, emails right in. I think
Thank you.
if I might just maybe add to that, I think that, in particular this session tonight, if we could maybe connect more with the chambers
Yeah,
as well.
that helps, I think, to have a host group, and
Right.
that definitely gets the word out.
Well, the thing that's interesting to me is that your input with regards to recreation and bicycling. I like that. And we well know there aren't any bicycling down Highway 3, not unless you're suicidal. And if that's what our county is selling, then we need to do a a better job.
Well, honestly, I mean, I've lived in Greatview for a long time, and I was really thankful when the county, did the project on Loop Road, 15 years ago. And I got a little discussion with the neighbor, and there's some people that are opposed to that kind of work, when like work was done out in Agate and different areas, and there's been people opposed to it because they want to keep that narrow, winding road, hope that keeps people out. They get kind of their trail experience around the road, but, as a bicycle enthusiast, I would rather ride on Highway 3 that has a shoulder than ride on, say, Greatview Loop Road with no shoulder. I mean, I feel safer. And and then I'll have to compliment the truck drivers because actually, they are the best drivers when it comes to bicycles. They are.
They're the best drivers no matter.
Well, right. It's the beat up pickup trucks. You hear those coming, you watch out. I mean, but honestly, I just want to compliment the truck drivers because they're good drivers.
Well, one of the ideas I had, and sometimes have a lot of ideas and no follow through, but was to get a hold of like the school district and try to invite a representative from the school district, a representative from like the fire department, to be involved because they see intersections, they see things, and try to even the PUD drives these roads all the time, every day, and so I'm sure that somebody's going to have a comment that we haven't thought of. Hopefully, in the future, that's where these meetings will, be generating more ideas. So,
We might want to think about, might want to even think about doing some sort of a little road show where we go out to civic groups, like the Rotary groups, and what we just did here tonight, show everything that's going on, because you're going to get a ton of input from all of those people. And you could get them, just call them, like with Skokomish Rotary, you call whoever's doing the programs and say, I want to be the program. And I'm sure they would say yes. I'm sure it would be interesting to all of their members. So you hit all the Kiwanis, you hit all the North Mason Rotary, Skokomish Rotary, Shelton Kiwanis, and they've got groups of, 20 to 50 people that come to their meetings, and you can get input from all of them. Sure, yeah. And they all live here in the county, so.
Well, we have something else that I don't see any real solution to, but since we're now a grown-up county, we have a whole lot more people wandering around. And they're wandering around at night.
Wearing black.
Wearing black. I ran over a guy 3 months ago, so I'm well aware of it. But one of the things that I want to comment about is that I've talked to the county quite a number of times about the Spencer Lake Tavern, and they finally put a light out there. They did that just 2 weeks ago, where the little crosswalk is. And so anybody that goes to Heartseed daily, nightly, however, I slid through there about a year ago, missed 2 people that were walking across that you couldn't see. There's the crosswalk. You're in a crosswalk and you're legal, right? You're safe. Well, if you can't see it, you're not very safe. And I called the county, and lo and behold, the county sheriff was behind me and stopped me, and we had a big long discussion about the problem. And he talked to the folks that walked across, but that doesn't ever prevent people from walking across. The only thing we can do is put a light in some of those places and make sure that there's more of a sidewalk there. And going through Shelton town, I've seen people walk down the middle of the street. I've seen people lie in the middle of the street after 10 o'clock, just lying down there, just waiting for someone to run over them.
well,
And again, I don't have a solution. I only see the problem there.
Well, I think they avoid, at least in what I've experienced in the past, I know inside the city limits, they avoid putting any crosswalks in mid-street, like in the middle of a street or a middle of a block, because of that. You just don't expect it, and the pedestrian feels
Even if
safe
they're there.
and thinks it's a safe thing to do, but the person on the driving doesn't expect that there's going to be a crosswalk right in the middle of a
Even if
block.
there is a crosswalk, you won't see it if it's night and dark, it's not lit. And,
Yeah.
well, we were talking about crosswalks at a couple meetings ago, I think, and Dave was talking about the crosswalks, and sometimes it's better not to have a crosswalk, because people believe that because they're on a crosswalk, they're safe. And there was just something in the road where, in the Get That Sun, I believe, that said that you're not required by law to stop the crosswalk. The law says something like if you are able to, or if you can, or something like that. So it doesn't say you have to unless if you're able to stop, then you're supposed to stop. If a person just walks up the crosswalk and you're unable to stop, you can keep
You
going.
hit them, you just hit them.
Yeah. Well, that's the way it works in the video games, I know. So,
And regarding Spencer Lake, thanks to Dave, he's been working with the folks there for quite some time about that issue and talking about lighting and what is the best fix there, so, thank you, Dave.
Actually, it was your phone call that got me going again.
Was it? Good. Good.
Because we've been dealing with it for some time, I think it was just a matter of...
Well, I went in and
Some
talked to her.
bureaucrats at work.
Exactly.
Basically came down to how it's going to be paid for, and I think we got a result.
Yes, thank you. Sooner or later, there's gonna be, every week there's an incident there. Whether or not it's reported, whether or not it's an injury, every week.
well, that's where I think that intersection safety, crosswalk safety, I think a person can get a lot of bang for the buck. And I know I brought that up earlier, but what kind of got me focused is I know a person that went through the intersection right there where Mason Benson, Trails Road, Mason Road, that's where Trails Road and Mason Lake Road begin. And they just went right through that intersection, and if it would have been maybe 5 minutes earlier or whatever, they could have been a T-bone right there, and they could have been dead. And so, my mind goes is what can we do with that intersection? What can we do with any intersection to make it safer? And
Well, one of the things is put in a damn stoplight, as much as we hate them,
Mm-hmm.
And we need one in Pickering. I count the cars that turn off at Pickering, and 1 out of every 2 cars turns off there. And the cars going up Agate Road at Bayshore, at Deer Creek, there's, activity and accidents there all the time.
Well, and sometimes you don't see it, you don't know it, like you're seeing it. I know I drive down 106 every day, and at least 50% of the cars go up Trails Road. And I would have never thought that many cars go up Trails Road. That road is really huge.
We've turned into we're a Dublin community. We're no longer a timber community.
Yeah. There's a lot of cars that use these little roads that you don't even think about it. So, well, if we're done with ideas, then
Lots of ideas for a small audience.
Right. Yeah.
then I guess I'm going to adjourn the meeting. So thanks for coming.
Yeah.